Welcome into another edition of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live, Pittsburgh Sports Now, and all throughout the Now family of networks. It's Friday, so congratulations getting through another week. And I am your host, as always, Mike Asti. I am joined by Mike Vukovcan, who is enjoying his deck, which was built by Doug Martin and Martin Lawn Services. This broadcast, of course, all Mic'd Up shows are presented by Martin Lawn Services. You can contact them at 412-849-5894. We don't have the sign, even though I have that number memorized. You can tell Doug I have it memorized. I can give it to anybody at any time. But enjoying the beautiful deck right out there that Doug built.
When are you coming over?
I don't know. I guess I'll have to get over there soon. Aside from a honeymoon in mid-July, and then when camp starts, one of these next couple weekends, you should.
Yeah, come on over. I want to have the PSN PSL gang over here. So we'll.
Okay.
All right. So let's get out here.
Yeah, I'm a little opened up here the next few weekends, so let me know. We're going to talk some Steelers here. We're going to obviously give you some action here over there. Our coverage of Steelers now throughout the offseason, including breaking news yesterday with the Steelers releasing David DeCastro. Kind of shocked some, maybe didn't shock others, but what does that say? Why maybe was he released, and how will that affect the team? And then the news that basically got washed away thanks to David DeCastro and certainly wasn't complained about near as much by the Steelers players is Latrobe. Unfortunately, a no-go for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They will not have training camp at St. Vincent College. Great experience. I've covered it before. It is kind of cool to do. Obviously great for the fans. I know the franchise itself wanted to do it with Rooney and Tomlin. I'm not so sure the players wanted to go, and you don't hear anything from them, so that kind of leads me to believe that. But why was that the decision when the Dallas Cowboys in particular are having their training camp in Southern California? What are the differences there? We're going to touch on all of that here and then let you go about your day and start your weekend. So, Mike, to get things started off, this is the major news, even though obviously the morning started off with training camp being bumped. But the Steelers released David DeCastro, a veteran. He was a part of that core. He was one of the better players in the offensive line for years, 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time overall All-Pro. One of the most underrated players in Steelers history, even though he was on those teams that underachieved or else had issues and drama and injuries and weren't able to get over the hump. What was your initial reaction when you heard the news, and how will this affect the team? They did make a signing to kind of replace him, but obviously that's unproven, and DeCastro had been proven. Not the player he was a few years ago, but Ben losing somebody to protect him. They lose another core member with Pouncey and Alejandro Villanueva, and it certainly makes it tougher for your rookie running back trying to find holes by losing members of the offensive line. They don't have the depth they would have had a day ago, even after the signing.
The only question I have about this, and the first thing I thought that came to my mind was, I have no problem. Unlike a lot of people, I don't really have a problem with this, because I think the offensive line is one position that you can't masquerade being not fully healthy. And I think we saw that last year with the Steelers. You had 3 members of the left, and there was no coincidence how bad they were, with Villanueva, Pouncey, and DeCastro all being injured. And my only thing that I'm wondering is the timing of it. I don't get that. Mm-hmm. However, my guess would be, and this is obviously just a guess, something happened at minicamp that they just finished, and I don't know if it was the Steelers he wasn't progressing like they had hoped. Maybe they had told him, "Hey, we're going to let you off, but you need to get healthy here," and he wasn't able to go, and they just determined that he was going to be a question mark all year, and it would be better to go off and get somebody else. And that's the other thing, is they picked up a guy that I don't know that a lot of people are. He was a Pro Bowler 5 years in a row up until last year. It's not as though they're picking up, some backup offensive lineman. They had a guy that was making it to the Pro Bowl as much as David DeCastro. Now, I'm not saying he was as good as him in his prime, but and it's also as though he's not a Pro Bowler 5 years ago. He was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago. Last year was his first off season. So I don't know that the Steelers are going to be worse off at that position with Trey Turner as the right guard than they were with DeCastro with his current health condition. I don't know that it's who knows? They might be better off.
My only devil's advocate, I guess, to bring some debate here, because I mostly agree, and I wasn't nearly as surprised as some of the national media were. This is where, and I tweeted this, this is the difference, and this is why Steelers Now and Pittsburgh Sports Now and these sites are so great, and fans should certainly head over there and subscribe if they aren't already doing so, because the national media, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, were shell-shocked. You even saw the tweets. Oh my God. It was acting like they had no idea this was even a realm of possibility, of course, because he's made Pro Bowls in recent years, even though he's been hurt. But most people in local media who've covered this team, that have been around this team, that pay attention, while they may have an opinion on it and may be concerned about the depth of the team, which is more of the thing, they weren't surprised. As you said, the surprise was the timing. I was not surprised this happened, especially after what occurred during minicamp, because he couldn't go. There were reports now that he didn't want to go, that he maybe had voiced that he no longer wants to play anymore because he doesn't want to have to go through rehab. There's also reports, possibly by a colleague of mine, that he actually went to the Steelers and said, I want to do a surgery, and missed most of the season. And they basically said, we don't know that you need this surgery. That hasn't been in our medical records. You know, they didn't feel like he really was gung-ho about this year or about even playing again. Of course, we haven't heard from him. I can't say somebody wants to quit if they don't say it themselves. They're not going to say that about him. But if you read in all of that, and then you get to the decision, you maybe can understand it more, and there certainly wasn't surprise. Unless that was the case and he wanted to bounce and they told him, hey, we got to sign this guy, so we got to do this now, then I don't understand the timing, because as others have also said, unless he wanted to quit and you had to sign somebody and you were just going to make this decision instead of forcing him to quit on his own, then why not bring him to camp and try it out? Because you have the opportunity to bring everyone to camp, and then you obviously can cut it down, and you have to cut it down. But you want to see him on the field at least once on the practice field. They haven't had to do that. So that's why the timing's weird. I was surprised by timing, unless he wanted to bounce, but I wasn't surprised by the move like national media.
And we saw subtle signs last year. DeCastro, he made some comments on how he wasn't totally into it last year.
He's an honest guy.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a good move. I do. Obviously you don't want to get, you don't want to have to cut a guy like that with the history that he's had with.
It looks bad. Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, and how good he is. But it's in the end, it's a business, man, and they have to put their best players out there. They have to put their best players that are capable of playing in 2021, not guys that were all-time Steelers. That's not Mike Tomlin's. 100%. That's not Mike Tomlin's job. He needs to. And if they deem that Turner is going to be a better offensive lineman this season than DeCastro, who has tons of question marks surrounding him, that's what they have to do. And the other thing that this does is the Steelers now have. I didn't see the dollar figures for.
Yeah, the cap. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't see the dollar figures for Turner's 1-year deal, but that opened up, and the Steelers now have, I believe it was before the Turner signing, between $15 and $17 million in salary cap.
Yeah, I think 15.6 or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe they could use that to get an early deal done with TJ Watt or Fitzpatrick or something like that. Maybe they can get ahead of the game because you wait in the NFL, the prices only go up.
So they're no longer getting Minka for cheap off the Dolphins contract, right?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe they use that extra money to go out and get ahead and get one of their two cornerstone pieces on their defense locked up.
Yeah, I agree. The only concern, because I still feel like it doesn't make the Steelers better today, but if he doesn't want to play and he's been injured, then of course it would. They certainly replaced him with a good player, is chemistry. The offensive line needs chemistry. Ben needs chemistry. The running back hadn't been there, of course, Najee Harris, but that's big for the offensive line, which is so important to a team. This Steelers O-line basically has no chemistry now because they're a ragtag group that they've been around, they've done it before, but never together. A lot of players are recovering from injuries or else from other teams, Banner, now Turner. So the chemistry may not be there, and the offensive line is what to watch for at training camp, no matter where it is, and we'll get to that in a moment, because you got to see that offensive line play in sync. You got to see them build chemistry. It's not common for an offensive line to be such a focus of camp, but they really are. We don't even know the starting positions or the position battles. Adrian Clement put it up on Pittsburgh Sports Live yesterday or 2 days ago, talking about the position battles and how important those are and his thinking there and what he's going to do and if Banner or anybody secured anything in his mind. So it seems all open. Go to that video for that. But that's critical to this team, is building the chemistry with the O-line that they do not have right now, even though they have individual solid players. Certainly Turner coming in and being that. Mic'd up here, presented by Martin Lawn Services, is Mike Vukovcan, enjoying that deck built for him by Martin Lawn Services and Doug Martin. I'm Mike Asti, and sticking with the Steelers here. Prior to the David DeCastro news, the Pittsburgh Steelers had some news that didn't really garner the best of reaction from fans and media, but they were kind of quiet on. You didn't hear anything from players like you heard after David DeCastro was released, including, I can't even say it here on the show, I won't do that to Doug, but a couple tweets and some reaction from Devin Bush in particular. So go over to his Twitter account. But none of that, you didn't see that word after Latrobe being canceled out, after the decision about Steelers training camp. They put out a proposal to the NFL. Obviously, it's the tradition of going to St. Vincent College, which is a small college in Western Pennsylvania. For those who don't know, interns and students a lot of the time run it. You're dealing with a lot of small town vibe, and it's important to that community. So I will say this: it sucks for Latrobe. I do get it. Hopefully, Sharkies doesn't lose business because of this, because I love Sharkies. If they go out of business, I might riot. But I get the issue for Latrobe. Steelers' proposal to the NFL had been rejected. They got the news yesterday. Tomlin had already voiced that was very late for him, and he was very upset and wanted that news earlier because they're starting the season earlier with the Hall of Fame game on August 5th. They don't get to go Latrobe. It appears they're going to play training camp again at Heinz Field. Mike, what are your thoughts on this decision? It does face value seem a little crazy because of what's going on with the Cowboys. It is different, to be fair, because they're going to be in a luxury hotel with professionals running the show, not colleges and interns and students. No one's going to be 18, 20 years old telling you whether it's COVID friendly. It's going to be a 35, 55-year-old who's an adult and a salary. That is different. But Heinz Field doesn't give you the fan-friendly vibe I could get as a fan, not loving it, even covering it. I do like Latrobe. It's easier for us, though, not having to drive an hour and then deal with that walk. And my steps are crazy. You park and then you're walking the whole thing at St. Vincent College. It's obviously not the case at Heinz. The vibe, and it's not as cool, but it does certainly appear, just from not hearing anything and reading those tea leaves, the Steelers players aren't upset. I don't think that millionaires love living the college dorm life for a few weeks.
No, you hit it right at the end there. I know Steeler fans and people are upset with this, but the NFL doesn't have it out for the Steelers.
Oh, no.
This is completely a health issue, and the comparisons to the Cowboys, as you said, they're staying in luxury hotels, and the Steelers players manned up in small college dorms.
Yeah, they're bunking up. Yeah,
it's not even a comparison. That is the reason. That's the simple reason. Although things are opening back up, and our lives are on their way to, in some cases they're all back to normal. The NFL is still going to be safe about all this. Next year, I would assume everything goes back to normal, and the Steelers are going to be at St. Vincent. But the NFL is being safe, and people wouldn't like. Trust me, the Steelers wouldn't like, or the Steeler fans wouldn't like the fact that something happens up at Latrobe where COVID, and then they're shut down for. Play it safe.
And then they miss Canton. They miss the Hall of Fame game. That's an exhibition. You don't care about that. But then you can't, then Tomlin included, can't go and celebrate Polamalu and company. It's a Steelers weekend in early August. They need to be healthy for it.
Yeah, and the NFL is being safe. The NFL is being safe about this. And trust me, The Steeler players don't care one crap.
No, the players are not mad. I think they're happy, honestly.
Yeah, they're staying in their homes. They're living their normal lives. They're with their families every day. They're staying in their nice houses or townhouses or wherever they're living. To me, this is more of a fan issue, and unfortunately, an issue for the community of Latrobe than anything else. This is not a big deal. It's better for the Steelers media, as you said, aside from maybe the ones that want to get away from their wives and stay up there for a week and hang out and be young guys again.
Or our friend Dan Chavino from the Latrobe Bulletin. It sucks for him because he always was 5 minutes away, and we always made he's a good friend of Alan and I. It's cool for him to be so close, but most of us.
And it's good for the Steeler players too, because they're going to be at their own facilities and
right. Yeah, they're going to split time with UPMC down the south side. It's going to be basically what it was last year, and I'm imagining, I don't know this part, we still have to hear word on this. I'm imagining that unlike last year, they may allow fans to go and see some of this and have some action at Heinz, just because things are more opened up now. So at least you'll get that. I get it though. Training camp for most teams is not at their pro stadium, and it's at least somewhere else. But maybe the Steelers should understand this. If you want to have it somewhere else, because Tomlin and Art Rooney II clearly wanted to have it at St. Vincent, I hate to say this to Latrobe, maybe you got to pick somewhere else. And maybe you got to say, okay, if we don't want to do this at Heinz Field, despite what our players want, we got to get a luxury hotel. The Rooney family has the money. We got to go somewhere else. And apparently you can go state to state because the Cowboys are going from Texas to Southern California. And that would be hard on media for sure if they left and went to Florida. Maybe it'd be cool to get down there for a week or two. But if you want to go somewhere else that's not just your stadium, then you got to have a better plan in place than just a 19-year-old student making sure you're clean in a bunked up, real small dorm room. I've been there many, many times. Those dorm rooms are small. So
Rooney's won't do that.
Probably not. No. So they're going to be at Heinz.
No, they're about tradition. They're about the community of Pittsburgh, Western Pennsylvania.
I think they felt a loyalty to the Latrobe
exactly.
too. I think honestly they would bail out Sharkies if they go out because they feel bad. I think.
No, they would never. One thing is they're not going to travel out of state. That's not going to. Yeah.
It's either that's crazy. They're going to go.
It's either going to be that's something the Dallas Cowboys would do. The Pittsburgh Steelers aren't doing that. They're going to stay in Western Pennsylvania, and they're going to. They're either going to be in Pittsburgh at their facility, or they're going to be at Latrobe. Maybe a good idea would be, I don't know if this is allowed, but maybe would they be able to have their night, they have a couple practices a year in the evening. Maybe they could still do that, or
have those at Latrobe. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe they could still have one of those night practices. They'd have to bus up, or maybe a place around Western Pennsylvania where a big we're able to get there. Pine Richland or someplace that has.
You know what they should do? I just thought of it. And I'm not taking this away from Latrobe because I know this is a cool thing that they do at Latrobe. So maybe you still do it once there, and then you do this as well. You do the training camp at Heinz and Southside. And by the way, for anybody who says, why can't they do this year? They put a proposal in and it was rejected. They had to have this in the proposal. So this cannot be done this year. If it wasn't in the proposal, the NFL is not going to allow it this year. But for the future, why don't they do that under the lights, high school vibe, high school practice game with 7 shots, some warm up, and a little game, which is a little scrimmage, what they do. And I covered that. That's really, really cool when they've done that at Latrobe. That's the coolest thing around with training camp after you've covered the rest of it so many times. Why not pick one of the WPL champions every year? You can't do all of the classifications. So you pick one of them, you make sure it's fair and in a rotation unless you got a dynasty rolling, and then do it there. So Pine Richland's for an example. Say, okay, Pine Richland, you've been really, really good. Your reward is we're going to have under the lights over there. If next year you go somewhere else, maybe you even go to Osh, or you go to some of those schools that are lower classification and have won a recent championship, and say, we're going to give this to you. You don't have to always go to 6A or 5A or 4A. You switch it around and you switch out classification. Maybe you rotate the classification champion, and whoever wins that classification championship the prior year if they can hold it, because not every high school can hold it, I guess.
That's the key.
To give them the opportunity to hold that. That would be really cool. That'd be really cool for that community. They would talk about that for 20 years if they had that. So I think that would be cool, and that'd be a fair way to even add some incentive to that school. But
That's a good idea. The key is as long as their facility and
they can hold it,
is able to hold it, and it would be professionally, because that's what Mike Tomlin's going to worry about. Is at the end of the day, it's still a professional practice, and they need to be able to get their work done. And
the field is the most important thing.
Yeah, as long as
high school has the field, they don't have necessarily anything else that's professional, but they have the field, and they do have stands for fans, and you can walk. It's big space, so you can walk around. Not every high school has that around, but a lot of them do. There are plenty that could hold it. So
Hopewell
right there, yeah.
Right to my
you can
right.
Hold it. That make it really easy on you. We'll do mic'd up every day. Over there on location.
Tony Dorsett Stadium. It could be right about a quarter of a mile to my right.
Yeah, so there you go. So there are ways to get around this. That would, obviously this is unfortunate for Latrobe, who does rely on it. Hopefully that doesn't hurt them too much economically, because it's now been 2 years of losing it. But there are ways to get around it to do something other than just be at the Pro Stadium. But right now, that's where they're going to be. That was the proposal that got turned down. So, oh well. We're just going to quickly round things out with this one last topic here. It's not Steelers, but it's Pittsburgh Pirates. Again, Brian Reynolds hitting the lights out again just last night. And it brings up the point, because we've discussed him before, and he certainly has proven that he can be a part of the future, that he is a good player, that he's not who he was last year, that he actually can be an all-star in this league. He's having an all-star caliber season. So whether or not he's going to be around long-term is a conversation we've had before and we'll have for another day. Adam Frazier also having a great season, but older, so he won't be around forever, but an all-star caliber season. JT Brubaker, Tyler Anderson, Rodriguez, all all-star caliber seasons, but this team's so bad this year, they're not going to get all those all-stars. They're not going to get 4 or 5. Who should be the Pirates all-star, and will they get more than one? And if it's more than one, does Brian Reynolds get that nod?
Well, statistically speaking, on merit, the Pirates should have
5.
Pirates should have 3 to 4 all-stars. I don't know the catcher's position. I don't know where
Stallings. It's not deep.
I don't know where Stallings ranks with some of the other catchers, but Frazier, Rodriguez, and Reynolds should be all-stars. Who will get in as the all-star? My guess would be Adam Frazier. And although I think Brian Reynolds definitely has a better case, I think he could get a victim of 2 things. Number one, the all-star position, the outfield position is always harder to make it because there's so many worthy candidates. And the number 2 thing is the Pirates' record. Unless his numbers are completely worthy, I don't know that the National League is going to give the Pirates 2 all-stars when you're one of the worst teams in baseball. And same with Richard Rodriguez. He has 0 shot. There's 0 shot of a closer for the worst team in the National League, or second worst team in the National League, being an all-star. Although he should be, he won't. It'll be down to those 2 guys, and who knows, maybe a guy backs out and one of those other guys get in. But my guess would be Adam Frazier will be in, the number 1 guy, followed by Reynolds, although I would reverse it and have Reynolds as my all-star.
I think Reynolds has been a better player individually, and I do think Reynolds is much more part of the future of this team. If they do keep him, he's younger. He can be a part of that future with Ke'Bryan Hayes. Adam Frazier being older, looking at 3 in front of the number for his age, not probably that guy. But I think individually this year, Adam Frazier will get the nod for position. It's not as deep. As you said, Brian Reynolds at center field, at the outfield. It's just littered every single year, and that includes a lot of name players that, even if they're not having great years, obviously none of these Pirates are going to get any of the fan vote. So it does rely on their peers. It does rely on the National League bumping them in. And maybe they will. I don't know. It is a weird season to have so many legit all-stars on such a bad team, which, again, I'm sure is going to make a lot of Pirate fans say, we knew they were going to be bad. It's a part of a rebuild. We get it. but maybe they should have been a little better than they are record-wise if they're going to have this many good players. But that'll be a whole nother conversation for another day as well. And we knew what this season was going to be about. You could at least argue it's a positive for the Pirates to have this conversation. They knew this wasn't going to be a good year coming in, but if they have a debate on who is an all-star and how many all-stars they should get, and they should get several all-stars based on merit, that means that they actually maybe have some more building blocks than just Hayes, and they were able to, at minimum, get value for these guys at the deadline, which we know is going to happen as well.
The Hayes injury, now that you look at it and the way they play since then and what he means to the team, that Hayes injury on opening day just killed them.
Oh, it sank the team. Yeah.
Sank their record would be, I don't have a number on how many more wins they would have, but they wouldn't be the second or third worst team in baseball.
And I think it's clear the Orioles are much worse than them. Even the Diamondbacks. There are teams that are worse than them. We'll see when they have that upcoming series against Arizona. There are some real bad teams out there, and those teams don't have a myriad of all-stars. But they were good the first 2 weeks, even without Hayes. But then it certainly sank, and it wasn't going to last when Hayes missed that much time. And they've had closers make it before, but of course those were in years where there was nobody else to pick from, and they were back with the rules where you had to pick somebody from every team. That benefited Williams in the past 15 plus years ago. All-star caliber, it does suck for them individually money-wise, though, for contracts. But if you're all-star caliber, you're not going to have the future deals where they're saying, well, you're a 1 or 2 time all-star. If you actually get it, then you can argue money-wise. So that's unfortunate. It is a big deal for them. But it's just not going to happen with more than one. If they get 2 players, that'll be phenomenal, and that'll be a statement they maybe deserve that individual.
I don't know. I think the way Brian Reynolds is playing, you just never know with the players opting out and players.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They could get it that way. And that would still count.
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if they got, I would guess that there would be 1, but I wouldn't be surprised if 2. I would be, I'd be stunned obviously if it was 3, but 2, I think, is just because of how well Brian Reynolds is playing down the stretch here when they vote. It's one thing if you did it all at the beginning and then you're quiet, but the way he's
been consistent.
These last couple of weeks, teams around the National League are aware of what's going on with him right now. So it wouldn't shock me if he somehow gets the vote.
Yeah, and they've had some national TV games recently where the national media, the broadcasters, talk him up a lot. Same with Frazier. So I'd imagine it'll be Frazier. Maybe it'll be Reynolds. That would be great. Rodriguez isn't going to get it. If JT Brubaker pitched like he was the first month of the season, he maybe would have a case too, but he's certainly tapered off as well. It's not going to happen for him either. That'll do it for this show here. We'll head into the weekend with another edition of Mic'd Up leading the way. And of course, check out all the sites. Mic'd Up is presented by Martin Lawn Services. Contact Doug Martin at 412-849-5894. That'll do it for this show.